month, I have been working on being intentional about everything that I do. And in being intentional about everything that I do, I have been every once in a while referencing a friend of mine who went on to glory in the past month, Krista. And one of the things that I loved about Krista is that she was highly intentional about everything that she did. And I know that this was a process that she had gone through, but it was a process that I feel like she went through earlier in life than a lot of us do. And so by the time that I had met her, she was pretty stabilized in being super intentional about everything that she did. She very rarely just up and did stuff, and even things that she up and did, she had a reason for it, and it was something that was sure and secure, related to some value, some deeper intention that she had, some joy or peace or enjoyment or pleasure that it brought her. And so when I thought about being intentional this month, that was what was central to me. Honoring that intentionality and being more intentional about being intentional for myself. And one of the things that I learned from her that I am focusing on more in my life is this thing that she did that I loved so much. And it's a pattern of behavior that I feel like if more people could break, the world would be such a better place. And so she just refused to try to reason with the unreasonable. She would debate you down to the socks, hands down, no holds barred, unless she felt like there was no reason to do so. If she felt as though you were a person who was particularly unreasonable, if there was no turning of your mind, that you weren't going to even listen to the other side, if you were someone who could not be reasoned with, she would not waste her time arguing with you. And people who were friends with her, she had a look, and God knows I wish I could replicate that look, honey. I wish I could do it, but those of her who know her, they know this look, and her face would just go, and she literally would hit you with the, okay, are you done? And when you were done, she wouldn't respond. It would just be like okay. And she would go on. And she would not blink. She would not get mad. She would not experience any emotional kerfuffles or anything. Because in her mind, she had already registered the fact that you were someone who was just unreasonable. And I loved that about her. And when I met her, it was something that I struggled with, because my personality is such as that I'm going to make you understand my point. I'm going to just continue to talk to you. I'm going to continue to just drive it home and bring more facts and bring more truth and bring more references and just until you see my side. And she was the complete opposite of that. She would gauge you, she would gauge the situation, and once she figured out that there would be no common ground, that there would be no place of compromise, that you were not a person who was going to actually listen to understand, but you were that kind of person who was just going to wait your turn to talk, she had nothing for you. And that was something that I admired in her. And so I determined in myself that I was going to catch hold of my emotions and break the cycle in myself of constantly having to explain and try to make people understand where I was coming from. And it took me a really long time because, like I said, it is my natural tendency. I want you to understand what I am saying. Like, it is so important to me because words are my thing. And so if you're not getting what I'm saying, maybe I'm using my words wrong. And it took me time after time after time. And I would call Krista sometimes in the height of frustration, having had like these huge atomic blow ups. Okay, where I would just be in tears. And you gotta know, for me to be in tears is like, it was terrible. Because I don't cry. I cried thug tears. I cried the kind of tears where if you see me cry, you better run because it's getting ready to go down because I'm that angry. But I'm talking about just like highly frustrated. I would call her and she would be like, well, it's your fault because you knew when you started that conversation that you weren't going to be able to change that person's mind. And you kept going. You kept trying to make that person see your side when they were already committed to not understanding what you were trying to say. You did that to yourself. And I love you, but you gotta stop trying to explain yourself to people who don't want to understand you. When I finally learned how to catch myself before I went over the edge of that, it was the best feeling ever to be able to hold my peace and say to myself, this conversation is not worth me engaging in because they don't want to understand. They want to argue. Honey, the peace that flooded my soul, it was like my guardian angel that the Lord has given to me was like, oh, finally. I could just hear him like, hey, she got it, y'all. Hey, dancing, okay, dancing, because I finally got it. I finally broke that pattern. Decade. I'm 40, about to be 42. Decades of me frustrated unto tears, trying to talk people into understanding me who were committed to not understanding me. The day that I got it, the day that switch in my brain flipped and said, oh, no, don't let the devil troll you like that on today, girl. Just say and walk away, because they don't want to. They're not trying to communicate. They're trying to fight. They're trying to play. No. The day that I got it, it was the blessing from on high. And I'm telling you this story because we all have patterns like that. We all have patterns and triggers of things that take us there. Those places of insecurity that we continue to try to drive the nail into a piece of metal, trying to force the square peg into a round hole, where the Lord is saying, stop it right now, stop it. And you're like, but if I just turn it this way, if I just hit it this hard, it'll go. And God is like, no, stop going around the same mountain. Stop it. All of us have those. And this next goal is to hear the word of the Lord for your life before we go into 2021, because there are some habits that you have, and it might just be some patterns that you have. It might just be one main one that's keeping you from moving into the next thing, keeping you from doing the thing that God said to do so that you can move to the next level, keeping you from moving forward, keeping you from leveling up. There's a habit, a pattern that needs to be broken, and it needs to be broken before we step into 2021. This is the time. Not January when it's time for the New Year's resolution ministry. This is the time to find it, expose it, eradicate it, and put a new habit into place. The word says, Jesus said, he said, everything that my Father did not plant, he's going to dig it out of you. And this is the season right now, here in November and in December. God is digging out of us. He's rooting up everything that has been implanted in us that is not planted by him. And there's a pattern there. There's a pattern of behavior. There's a root there that God is trying to dig out of your life so that you can move forward. And so for the rest of this month, that's what we're working on. And I just gave you that little one for me, because that was one that I've overcome, because I have figured out how to, like, even on Facebook and what have you, where I would just be like, oh, no, you didn't. And the Holy Spirit would be like, girl, no, erase all of that and move on. That ain't got nothing to do with nothing that got to do with you. Keep it moving. At work, I'd be like, bruh. And the Holy Spirit would be like, don't you say a word. Smile, nod your head, keep it pimping. Because if you continue in those patterns, you'll never get to where it is that you need to go. The children of Israel walked around that mountain, Mount Horeb, for 40 years. They walked in their own footsteps for 40 years. 40 years. A trip that should have taken them 40 days. 40 years. 4 decades. Around and around and around and around. And didn't realize it. And I promise you, there is something in your life that you're doing all the time. And you don't realize it. And God is getting ready to do you just like he did the children of Israel, when he was like, hey, stop going around the same mountain. Get thee north. It's time for you to stop going around in the same negative, unproductive pattern and lift your eyes and get north in this season before we move on into 2021. Because 2021 is the year of the blessing. It's the year of grace. It's the year of unmerited favor. It's the year of let's get it, let's get it, let's get it. Hey, it's leveling up. So you can't go into that level up season doing the same thing that you've always done, trying to get something new, trying to get something different. We got to change it now so that the new, good, positive, productive habit in the Lord is already ingrained and we're ready to rock and roll. All right, that's it. That's it for now.